Hello, and welcome back to Guidance in Recovery, your sobriety journey podcast with your host, Keegan. Have you been trying to work with your chakras, but you don't really know what to do with them? Well, today we're joined by a returning powerhouse who has spent over 20 years in the health and wellness industry. Amy Vincze is a certified tapping coach of 16 years and the visionary founder of the Soar with Tapping app. She doesn't just teach healing, she's lived it. Using EFT to navigate cancer, chronic pain, and deep-seated trauma to reclaim her own life. And last year, we actually spoke and she covered the science of tapping. And today we're going to be looking at the chakras to kind of get a map of how we're going to do tapping, because I don't know about you, but sometimes it just sounds so simple, but I need a little bit of a map. So, Amy, how are you doing today? And what's a hill that you're willing to die on whenever it comes to tapping?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So it's great to be here. Thank you for having me again. It's good to see you again. A hill that I'm willing to die on for tapping is just about any hill. It truly is. I've had so much transformation in my life because of this tool. I use it on absolutely everything, including my pets, with success.
Huh.
And there's just nothing that scares me about it. There's only good to be gained in this arena as far as I'm concerned. So I don't think you could present something to me that I would be like, nope, can't do it.
So there's nothing bad with this whole tapping thing. You're saying that no one's going to really regress into like a trauma or something?
I think you can go a little bit too fast with trauma sometimes. Sometimes people really need a very slow approach. Like sometimes if it's really intense, we can start with the trauma like in a vault on the other side of the city or something like that. And then once your number gets down to a 0, when it's over there, then we bring it a little closer. And then when maybe it's in the house, and then you open the door. So it just depends on the person. Because some people are just willing to go there right away. But only the individual person can know that about themselves, what they're willing to do.
Gotcha. So real quick, whenever it came to tapping and trying to figure out how far you're willing to go with certain subjects, what's one of the things that someone needs to look out for whenever they're exploring an uncomfortable emotion?
Oh, let's see. Well, is this a good time to get into the chakras already?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, perfect. Have you already like gone over all of this stuff with your listeners at any point, or should I kind of give everybody a bit of an education about chakras?
I mean, everyone's got a slightly different viewpoint on chakras from my understanding, so it's going to be better if we get Amy's idea of chakras and how they work and how they are incorporated with tapping as well.
Okay, perfect. I'm going to reference a book here just in case your listeners want to delve more into it, because this, it's backwards. It's called Eastern Body, Western Mind by Anodea Judith. And it's like the Bible for chakras, basically.
Okay.
And I'll just give you kind of the standard version of chakras and my understanding of what they correspond to as far as different areas of your life, different emotions, and then different organs and systems in the body.
Okay.
So the first chakra is otherwise known as the root chakra, which is in the general vicinity of the tip of your tailbone. There are other people that like to focus on the glands, and so there's a gland that's right in between like your perineum and your tailbone, so kind of right in that area. But if you're focusing, I mean, it's general area, it's fine. And that area tends to focus on feelings of belonging, feelings of community, feeling like you're safe. It corresponds to bigger systems in the body, like our immune system, often our skin, like bigger muscles and sometimes bones, that sort of thing. So bigger systems in the body. Blood is one of the ones that's covered with the first chakra. So if you have any disorders in any one of those things, The first chakra is where you want to look, definitely. And then the shadow that each chakra has a shadow. They have kind of a lightness and then they have a shadow. So the lightness of the first chakra is community and belonging and all of those wonderful things
Mm-hmm.
and the physical body. And then the shadow side is fear.
Mm.
So it's important mostly to work through all of your fears. Those are generally held in that first chakra area.
Hmm.
And it's not just fears like, fear of heights or fear of spiders or something along those lines. It's really goes a lot deeper than that. It's like fear that you don't belong and fear that of abandonment or
Mm.
rejection or fear that you're not enough, like just really big kind of meaty heart of every single issue type of fears.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's actually where I like to start. A trauma lives there,
Okay.
as you can probably imagine. And that's
Yeah.
where I like to start with my clients because that is usually at the core of every single issue, whether it's physical or emotional that people are experiencing, is
Mm.
fear. And you can't really have great success if you start with other chakras, like maybe even the third or fourth or fifth. Everybody likes to focus on the heart chakra because it's so, love, love, love. And or like the third eye chakra because it's so sexy. Everybody wants to have their intuition. Um, but really, if you don't focus in on the fear, everything else will suffer as a result. It's like
Mm.
trying to build a house or a multi-level building on a shaky foundation. Like you just
Mm.
can't do it. Like you need to have that solid base. And that's why it's important, really important to start with the first chakra.
Mm. Okay.
Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, and you also said something that I've tried to do before too, like, oh, let me work on the heart. I want to love other people better. I want to love myself more. But if I'm sitting there and everything is still operating in fear, then that's not how love works. You
Exactly.
know?
Exactly. And honestly, all of our human problems that we tend to have are mostly centered down in chakras 1, 2, and 3.
Hmm.
So if you work through those, the rest of them kind of take care of themselves a little bit. So
Mm-hmm.
it's really important to focus our energy down in the first 3 chakras as we're
Hmm.
doing the bulk of our healing.
Okay.
So most important, start with number 1.
Gotcha.
And I'm going to say this too, you're going to be dealing with your fears in layers because
Mm-hmm.
you will get to a point where you feel like I'm not afraid of anything, and then you kind of expand into the space that you've created for yourself by clearing some fears out. And then as you expand, you're going to bump up against your own boundaries again with fear.
Mm.
And so then you'll need to clear another layer, and then you
Mm-hmm.
can expand even more into the person that you are supposed to be. And it just kind of keeps happening that way. So we're never done with this work as much as I would
Yeah.
love to be. We just never arrive. We just
Mm.
continue to, it gets easier and easier as it goes, but we never really arrive at a destination point with it.
Mm.
So first chakra is shadow is fear that we need to work through. The second chakra, sacral chakra,
Mm-hmm.
is all about our relationship to different things in the world. So it's our relationship with other people, it's our relationship with money, our relationship with creativity,
Hmm.
um, sexuality, all of those things. And with all the chakras, it's really important to have a balance between power and vulnerability. And especially in the second chakra, this is where people with addiction, maybe a lot of your listeners, this is generally where they're going to spend the bulk of their time. So
Hmm.
definitely fears first, always fears first. But then the bulk of their time is going to be spent in the sacral chakra, kind of
Okay.
balancing out between power and vulnerability in all of these areas.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Yeah. So the light part of it is, being able to have that balance between power and vulnerability. Like, you can comfortably be in a place of um, stating your needs and desires, but you can also be really vulnerable by letting somebody else lead sometimes, because both are necessary in partnerships and in life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the shadow side is guilt. And guilt is
Ooh.
the thing that needs to be worked through in the second chakra. So if you have guilt about what you do or don't do sexually, if you have guilt about what you do or don't do in a relationship, or you do or don't do with money, these are really big issues that most
Mm-hmm.
people find themselves either lacking in, or they just go overboard with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's all about finding that balance and ridding yourself of guilt.
Huh.
So the goal is to be unapologetic about whether or not cry at sad movies, or sad situations, and unapologetic about asking for a big raise, you know, something along those lines. So
Uh-huh.
it really is about being able to kind of just be whoever you are without an apology in any way, shape, or form, and know that you have strengths and you have weaknesses, and everybody does, and that doesn't make you feel like less of a person in any way.
Yeah.
So that's
Ooh.
the goal with the second chakra.
Okay.
Okay,
Huh.
so third chakra, do you have any questions about that one?
Well, that one's kind of interesting because I didn't really realize that it was so tied to relationships and like creativity and stuff as well.
Hmm.
And it was interesting too because whenever you first said like the power versus vulnerability aspect, part of me was like, okay, so the power is the light, the vulnerability is the shadow, but it's not that way.
No, it's
And
easy to judge that, right? Like, that's
uh-huh.
what we assume. We don't always want to be in the power mode at all. That is
Mm-mm.
not balance. That is not
No.
balance. So
Uh-uh.
I totally get that. I think that that's probably a common misconception about
Mm-hmm.
what it should look like. And I
Mm.
think that we're kind of fed an idea by our culture about what is acceptable and what isn't. And in our culture, vulnerability is not acceptable in most ways.
Yeah.
So
Unfortunately.
so that's why you would automatically consider it a shadow, but it's not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, I've come to kind of figure out that vulnerability isn't so much saying everything can hurt me, but I'm willing to heal from the things that have hurt me, you know.
Mhm.
But it, yeah, hmm, and the whole society thing being like, all right, we have to be in charge of our lives. It's like, no, there's some things that I'm definitely not in charge of, and I just have to kind of go with the flow.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Huh. Okay. So, man, that's interesting. And so with the chakras, they really go from bottom up, not top down.
When you are working through trauma
Hmm.
and disempowering beliefs, issues with your body, that's
Hmm.
the place that you should start.
Okay. Huh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So second chakra organs are all reproductive organs, and also lower back. Like, a lot of people have lower back pain. They probably feel really vulnerable around money.
Hmm.
And so that's an area to focus on. Like I mentioned, it's also heavily associated with addiction, food addiction, any kind of addiction.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, that one's kind of weird too, because in the whole healing journey, it's definitely the root and sacral, I can tell, are integral in healing all that, because one, you need community of some sorts, at least connection with yourself up foremost, and then you also have to be vulnerable to heal, and you have to be willing to do this kind of stuff. And if
Yes.
we're like running in that fear mode, if we're sitting there and isolating and just wanting to be disconnected, then there's no real hope of actually getting out of addiction. So that makes a lot of sense. Kind
Hmm.
of blows my mind.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a real revelation when you think of it in those terms.
Hmm. Yeah. And also, before we got started recording, I had a moment where I was getting overstimulated, and I was like, I just wish my skin would stop touching the air. So whenever you said the root chakra, I was like, I wonder if I'm anticipating a package coming in, and it's like, I wonder if I'm just so like shooken by that my root chakra is just like, all right, everything just stop, just don't touch nothing. But
Yeah.
it's very strange.
Pulled in too many different directions can get you dysregulated too. It doesn't take much, right?
No.
Right. Yeah. So third chakra, solar plexus, is
Mhm.
kind of right where your ribs come together.
Mhm.
It's right underneath that spot, like just below your ribs right there.
Okay.
And that is all associated with our complete digestive system.
Mm.
So other than like the sigmoid colon, which is down at the very bottom, it's basically mouth to lower intestine.
Okay.
So if you have any kind of like people with Crohn's or even like food sensitivities or colitis, or even constipation, those types
Mhm.
of things, this is an area that you're going to want to focus on. Indigestion, whatever it is.
Huh.
And this area is all about our sense of self. On the power side, it's being willing to be seen out in the world, being willing to kind of have people see all of our good and bad aspects of
Mhm.
ourselves. And on the vulnerability side, it's about feeling shame about who we are.
Mm.
So, just to make it that distinction between guilt and shame, guilt is about feeling horrible about something that you did. Shame is about feeling horrible about who you are.
Mhm. Yeah. And that's a big distinction.
Yes, yes. And that's a very big deal. And people with a lot of trauma, especially like sexual trauma, women with sexual trauma, often
Mm.
have significant problems in their solar plexus or in their digestive system because they feel so much shame around the aspect of their trauma.
Mm. Yeah, that would make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And oof. So, what's the shadow aspect of the solar plexus?
It's the shame. It's shame.
Oh, it is a shame. Okay.
Yeah, so that's
Ooh.
the thing that you want to focus on with your tapping.
Mm.
So it would be shame about, anytime, a lot of times there's perfectionism
Mhm.
and or people pleasing. And so there's shame if you don't do that. There's shame if you're not perfect, shame if you make a mistake, shame if you have an addiction that you don't want people to see. I mean, there's just a million things to feel shameful about. And those all need to be neutralized with tapping in order to achieve really good balance and in your chakra and your solar plexus.
Okay. Ooh, that makes a lot of sense. And oh man, that's interesting to me because whenever I think about like showing up for myself, I always kind of get that feeling right there where it's almost like butterflies in the stomach, but
Mhm,
it's not quite butterflies in the stomach, and it's
mhm,
like part
mhm.
of me is like it's recognizing that, oh, I'm having to be seen, and a lot of me is like, hey, I don't want to be seen because the last time I was seen, bad things happen.
Right,
So
right. Super
huh.
risky, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, yeah. It feels so scary. I totally went through this when I was, in the place where I had to start marketing my business and my app, and I didn't, like you, I don't want people to see me. I don't want to be in the spotlight at all. And I had to work through that a lot. Work through
Mm-hmm.
that fear of people seeing the fact, probably the fact that I am not perfect. And I do have issues, even with
Mm-hmm.
all of the tapping that I do. It's still just, something that I want to keep private. I don't want anybody to see it.
Yeah.
Even though I have so much compassion and empathy for other people when they feel that way, I don't seem to have it for myself a lot of times, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the solar plexus, I guess, whenever you work on that, it's being able to show compassion for yourself too.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I actually think that we should come first in all of these things.
Mm,
We should come first. Like if we're going to work on your heart chakra, I think you have to work on loving you first before you can work on giving it away to other people. You have to
hmm
work on having compassion and even a measure of pride in who you are.
mm. Ooh,
I know,
pride. That's a
I
tough one.
know, I know. That's almost sounds like arrogance to us who do have a struggle with it.
Exactly.
Yeah, but again, there should be a balance.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Did we go over the organs of the solar plexus yet?
Uh, Digestive system,
Okay.
anywhere from the mouth down to the big intestines.
Gotcha. Oof. Huh. Our last episode, we talked about allergies and how they have emotional ties, or possibly. And I don't know if I've really been like adventurous enough to be like, oh, I'm going to try things that are bad for me. But I can tell you that the emotional aspect of my healing has gotten better. So I wonder if some of the things that I'm allergic to or sensitive to, I'm actually sitting there and my solar plexus is kind of working towards making all that stuff kind of go away in a sense. I don't know.
I think healing that aspect of who you are will definitely make progress in that area. I always make progress on a physical level when I do on an emotional level. They're just so intertwined.
Yeah.
So I caution you against, going crazy. And I think it might even be really difficult for you to tell if there has been an improvement because it might have been so long since you've experienced some of the food
hmm
you've eaten. I don't know.
Yeah.
That would be a curious kind of experiment to go through.
Yeah. Thankfully, none of them really gave me anaphylaxis. So,
Oh, okay. So
yeah. So it was mostly digestive stuff.
yeah.
So we should be good to experiment. But I also don't want to go eat watermelon and then feel like I'm getting stabbed in the gut for 45 minutes to a few hours.
Yeah,
So
no,
no
thank
thanks.
you. No, thank
Yeah.
you. Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
So I guess moving forward to number 4, correct?
Do the heart chakra. Yeah.
Ooh.
The one that people love, love, love to work on because I want to feel more love too.
Uh.
I totally do. That is definitely the power side. And being able to um kind of the power side of that is being able to reach for what you want, reach for love and know that you deserve it. And then the shadow side is the inner critic that tells you that you don't deserve it.
Mm, ouch.
Yeah. Yeah. And it really is and grief, there's a lot of grief that around that.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much deep sadness that's associated or that's just underneath the surface of that inner critic. And that is the true shadow, but it's the inner critic that prevents us from reaching it and
Mm,
having compassion for ourselves. So we have to work through that inner critic first. And it is literally the harshest shadow that we have in all of the chakras is that inner critic.
yeah.
And yeah, it's so noisy and bitchy. Yeah,
Mhm.
I know. And it does
Yeah.
serious damage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it really does. And it's interesting too because I've spoken to Emma Lyons and she talks how our inner critic is really just inner shame. And it's just essentially like an inner narcissist of a sorts. And whenever we spoke, it really just made a lot of sense. And I was like, oh, okay. And so whenever I've kind of taken that angle of like, okay, so this is more of someone else put this programming in me to shame myself for things that I feel or did or so on and so forth and how I view myself. It's really like changed the game on healing because I can not sit there and be as harsh anymore. I can sit there and kind of change the angle of like, okay, well, this is how I think or this is how I feel, and that's just kind of what it is. Like I can explore
Mhm.
that for sure,
Mhm.
but I don't have to beat myself up for just having a feeling,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So
They're
Mm.
so closely intertwined. Like in the minute you feel that shame, then the inner critic gets triggered and starts telling you you're a POS.
Yeah.
But if you can see how if you work through the shame in your solar plexus, then the inner critic doesn't have any ammunition
Yeah. Yeah.
anymore. Like
Uh-huh.
there's nothing there for it to latch onto and dig its claws in and yeah, and do damage.
Yeah.
So
Huh. Ooh. Okay. So the shadow of the heart is the inner critic. Got it.
inner critic,
Oof.
and below that is a really deep-seated grief, like really
Mm-hmm.
such deep, heartbroken sadness over the disconnection that creates in our heart
Mm-hmm.
to ourselves, to being
Mm-hmm.
able to love ourselves, but also the disconnection that it creates in our relationships because it's almost impossible to love somebody else when you don't love yourself. It's just really hard. It's
Yeah.
more performative at that point because not a real authentic love. I'll
Mm-hmm.
say it that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know whenever I was on that spectrum of stuff, that performative love also did come back to the inner critic being like, oh, well, now you can feel guilty for this because
Right.
it's not all there. And I was like, damn it. I thought I'm doing the right thing.
It's never ending. Oh, I totally know what you mean.
Ugh. Ugh.
It's brutal. So not only is it the organs, it's not only is it the heart, but it's also the lungs,
Hmm.
upper shoulders, and arms. So
Mm.
like if you're having a lot of tension in your upper shoulders and stuff like that, it's usually has to do more with like anger and resentment, but it's about anger and resentment that other people have something that you don't, sort of
Hmm.
thing. The ability to
Ooh.
love themselves, the ability to ask for what they need, the ability to like do
Mm.
things that we ourselves want to do and don't feel entitled to it because we
Oh,
don't love ourselves enough.
yeah. Self-advocacy. That's a
Yes.
really hard lesson to learn.
Yes. Yes,
Ugh.
it is.
Damn.
I know.
And I guess that would go right up next to the throat chakra, right? Is that
Yeah.
next?
Throat chakra is next. And as you can imagine, the throat chakra is all about power side is truth, and then lies is the shadow.
Mm.
And you might think that it's really obvious what the lies would be, lying to other people. But it really is much more about the lies that we tell ourselves about what's really going on for us.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll give you a great example. Most women that have a lot of our moms, they take care of other people a lot. They have a lot of people pleasing tendencies, that sort of thing. They will deny to the end that they have needs.
Oh, ouch.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody has needs. And invariably, those women struggle with slow thyroid.
Huh.
So our thyroid glands are very much associated with the throat chakra. Obviously, if you have any problems speaking or, you know, anything happening in that area, it would also be associated with the throat chakra, but the thyroid is also a big portion of that.
Huh.
So the shadow to work through there is the lies that we tell other people. Definitely, we don't want to, tell mistruths to other people, but the ones that we tell ourselves are the ones that are the hardest to swallow.
Yeah.
This is
And
also kind of the area where our outer world connects with our inner world. So
mm,
it's this is our ability to release emotions that have plagued us for a long time. So speaking them out loud actually helps to release them from our body. Um, and being able to speak our truth, like if we're really angry about something, being able to say it is a very cathartic thing for somebody that has blockages in their throat chakra.
mm,
So it's all about kind of speaking our truth, what we're
mm.
really feeling, what we really want, all of those things.
Ooh, okay. I love that. And I mean, like you said, some of the truths or some of the lies that we tell ourselves are the hardest ones to kind of overcome. And you know that saying that to tell a good lie, you have to believe it. Well, I don't know about you, but I believed every time I said I wasn't worth the damn or this, that, or another. And so all those other shadow chakras, yeah, oof, ouch,
Yeah,
damn.
I know. I know. But then again, I'm just gonna go back to this because this is the thing that gives me hope. You work through fear and you work through guilt and you work through shame, and then there's hardly anything there other than um, an old pattern maybe that you need to let go of
Mm,
to be able to speak your truth without fear, without guilt, and without feeling shame about whatever your truth is.
mm. Huh.
So it's just a matter then of changing a pattern for yourself and, going outside of your comfort zone a little bit to try something new and
Uh-huh.
actually speak your truth to safe people, not, you don't need to go with a megaphone out there. Um,
Yeah.
but so working on that alone sometimes can feel really overwhelming, working on whatever the issue is for the throat chakra. But you've already worked through the majority of it if you've gone through chakras 1, 2, and 3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's
Huh.
good news.
Yeah, that is good news. And what is that saying that you have to really air your grievances to kind of get them out of you, anyways? Uh,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Air all the feelings, all
mm,
the fear, all the guilt, all the shame, all the joy when there's a part of you that thinks you shouldn't feel joy or, whatever it is.
yeah.
Grief, yeah, all of it.
Huh.
Being able to talk through it, get rid of it,
Mm,
which is why, just having a friend that you can talk to can be such a huge help in
mm-hmm.
times of struggle.
Yeah. Okay. Ooh. So I think that one I still kind of need to work on a little bit myself. But
Me
anyways.
too. Me too. Yeah. So the next chakra is
Okay.
our third eye chakra. And this is where most people associated with it. Dr. Joe Dispenza will tell you that it's the pineal gland, which is kind of right at the top of your spine and the kind of at the base of your skull and the top of your spine meets, kind of right in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that is all about intuition, imagination, ability to dream, ability to kind of maybe see stuff that isn't necessarily there, to see the reality, which isn't always just the physical world.
Mm. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Have you listened to the telepathy tapes by any chance? It's a podcast.
I've heard of it, but I have not listened myself.
Okay. The telepathy tapes are just a great example of um, a really powerful third eye chakra because
Hmm.
there's all of these kids with autism, and I won't go too deeply into it, but they have the extraordinary ability to communicate with people telepathically.
Huh.
And it's because their light body is so disconnected from their physical body. Most of
Hmm.
us are so grounded in the physical world, it's hard to imagine the lightness and the spirituality aspect of things sometimes. But
Mm-hmm.
they're so connected to spirituality that they have trouble um, having control over their physical body.
Mm.
But
Huh.
they have this amazing ability to have telepathic communication with people that they're closest to. It's really
Huh.
cool. It's really
That is
cool.
really cool.
So yeah, this is the third eye chakra. The shadow for this one is like illusions. It's like
Ooh.
denying that spirituality exists, denying that there's more than this earthly plane. Just being in a state of not being able to imagine a future for yourself or things that show up there on a physical level would be like poor memory,
Mm.
ability to, let's see, lack of imagination, poor dream recall, things along those lines.
Hmm. Okay. Interesting. So being stuck in the matrix. Got it.
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Huh.
And then, do you have any questions about that?
I think one of the things that my father used to say, or not used to say, he didn't really talk about it until much later in my life. But he said that his family, like, I guess we all have our third eye kind of open a little bit more so than like most people or something. And I know for me, I've had super vivid dreams ever since I was little and have great dream recall, and I can do lucid dreaming. I just usually choose to let the dream take me along for the ride because it's funner that way.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love
So,
it. I love it. I've always longed for that. I don't have that ability.
oh man, sometimes the dream it's really weird. Like I've had some really weird dreams, but but if the shadow side is the illusions, I can and or like not being able to see the future for oneself. That definitely played a part in my addiction because I didn't see a future for myself. There was no hope. There was no light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
You know, so that
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Huh.
Definitely.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, oof. I mean, that one I'm going to have to listen to the telepathy tapes and see what that's all about because that sounds really interesting.
I hope you do. It really goes down a super deep rabbit hole. It was a little hard to kind of stay with it in the beginning because they focused so much on just the details of proving that it was true that these kids could actually communicate telepathically. That it was a little bit cumbersome in the beginning because they had to, be as meticulous as possible in order to be accepted
Of course.
out in the scientific world.
Yeah.
So if you get through those kind of first few episodes, and then later on it goes way down a deep rabbit hole, but they also talk about having a telepathic relationship with animals. And God, it's just so cool. It just really opened my eyes, especially about the nonverbal community, because they have a spirituality that is far surpasses us. And we judge them because of what their physicality looks like. But they are far more advanced than we give them credit for.
Yeah. Oof. That
Right.
makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
And yeah, and the kids often give messages and things like, there's a reason that there are so many autistic kids right now, and it doesn't really have anything to do with what's happening environmentally. It has to do with being able to help the people that are here on the planet at the moment kind of heal in different ways and reach new levels of spirituality through their example.
And yeah, I can definitely see that. And I mean, that's one of the things, we as people, we like to have that solid proof. We have to have like this understanding of like, well, I can't see it, so it doesn't really exist, or does it? And so I can see why the tapes had to do that deep, cumbersome rabbit hole at first.
Yes.
And I can definitely see why that like nonverbal community can definitely be the next stepping stone that we need, or they're so much further ahead because whenever like you look at a lot of different cultures in the world, they'll have like meditations or days where you go without speaking, where you're supposed to do self-reflection, and it will make you think different. It will make you kind of sit there and reevaluate, put a new perspective on things. And spirituality is one of those that it's super individual, but there is something like there's still that meat to the bone, and everyone is so like I think people are just too focused on the hair, like what does it look like, instead of like it's just there.
It exists. It doesn't hurt, whatever it is. It's fine. Yeah.
Yep.
Totally.
Okay. So I guess that leads us next to the crown chakra, right?
Seventh chakra is up on top of our head. And if you that little soft spot on babies that tends to be the last thing that closes up is our connection to the universe. So it makes sense that, that's the very last thing that closes up on a baby. And that's kind of our ability to have a bigger perspective on our lives than just the kind of day-to-day details. It's the ability to see the truth of the universe, to be able to connect with the universe on a spiritual level. And the shadow side is, again, kind of the same thing, which is just shutting ourselves off because we don't have that perspective at all. The people that are so adamant about denying anything that's woo-woo or anything that's woke, doesn't have that the balance in their seventh chakra by any means, unless they've come here for some higher purpose that we are not aware of, and they're taking one for the team. I really feel like because it's a tough call, and it's not my call, so I try to avoid it. But yeah, so it's our ability to connect on a higher level and to see things from a different perspective, and to not always look at what's at face value, but to just trust that there is a bigger vision for ourselves and for our life, and it's much more meaningful than we imagine.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Ooh, I love that. And I can see where the shadow side of that came into play for myself in addiction, because it's just totally not there. It's like, I'm sorry. It's weird thinking back to it too, because it's like, as I've come along my own like journey, I think that sin, quote unquote, is more or less the disconnect from ourselves, the disconnect from divine, and so on and so forth. And that's where we really go wrong, is sitting there saying like, I've got the ropes, I can do anything and everything all on my own because I don't need anyone else's help. No, nothing. And like, I know what I'm doing today, and it's like, yeah, you don't know what's going to happen in 5 minutes, bud. So calm, hit the brakes.
Yeah. And I think this is a really difficult one for people to grasp. I feel like religion kind of convolutes the issue the majority of the time, but so many people go down that path that only looks a certain way, and I think it takes a time to an experience on the planet, and through experiences like addiction, that we arrive at this place where we suddenly realize, oh right, I can't do it by myself, and I don't have to. Thank goodness. But yeah, I feel like we've been again led down a perilous path because of religion, and I think we're on the path to getting back to the place where we recognize the authentic power of that connection.
Yeah.
Instead of money and physical, in our physical world kind of power.
Yep.
Personal power. Yeah.
Yep. I agree with you 100%. Religion, someone said it that it's needed in a way because people need that framework if they don't know what to think of. Sure. And I can understand, I can get that, but at the same time, it's like, you shouldn't have to shame people into staying in a box whenever they start asking questions, whenever they want to learn different perspectives, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And
thankfully, programs like AA and NA, they all have created community around kind of a different kind of spirituality. And I think that has been one of the biggest catalysts towards getting people towards an authentic connection with higher power.
Yeah, for sure. Don't get me wrong, there's still some people that let their shadows run their recovery program, and definitely don't let other people ask questions outside of the group or whatever, but that's its own group.
Yeah. And everybody still has their shadows.
Yep. Yep. And it's learning how to integrate those shadows, which is difficult at the same time. But I guess that's where tapping comes into play, right?
Absolutely, because you can work on any one of these things that we've talked about. Like I said, you're going to get the most bang for your buck when you start at the bottom, because the physical chakras are 1, 2, and 3. The heart
Mm,
is in the center, and then the spiritual chakras are 5, 6, 7.
okay.
So starting at the bottom is the best place to go. That is where you're going to make the most progress at the fastest rate. But it is going to affect all of the upper ones as well when you're doing that work. The minute
Mm,
you start letting go of fear, you have a whole different perspective, and maybe your third eye tends to open a little bit more when you get a different perspective on life. Like life doesn't have to just be about staying safe.
yeah.
It can be about living and finding a comfort in being in this physical body
Mhm.
while doing spiritual work.
Yeah. That oof. That
Mhm.
makes I think you hit one of those things that not a lot of people well, I guess we've kind of talked about it here, but for myself personally, learning how to be safe back in my own body and say that, hey, this physical existence is fine. Like, we're going to have to go do things. We're going to have to talk to people. We're going to have to do this. We're going to have to do that. We don't
Yeah,
have to be a hermit crab all the time, you know?
right,
It's like,
right.
damn it, safety.
I
But
know.
I feel like safety is just another one of those things that we've kind of been programmed into, and it's not for safety. Sometimes I think that the outside forces, it's called me conspiracy theorist, but safety is sometimes just a control mechanism that helps keep people from asking questions or being empowered, being themselves. So,
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways we've been overfed fear
mm-hmm,
so that we get to that place. But for women in particular, I think that we have lived in, or I think the world is unsafe, and some places more than others,
mm-hmm,
on a physical level. So it's a little bit of both. I think
yeah.
it's a little bit of both.
That is, yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Real quick, where can people find you and your website if they're looking to get a little bit of help with, like, if they want to ask you questions?
Yeah, you can ask me questions. You can email me, amy@soarwithtapping.com. That's
Okay.
SOARWITHTAPPING.com. Or you can just go to my website. A lot of that information that we've just talked about on the chakras is already there. And the ability to email me if you're interested in private sessions, or um, there's links to the app too, because all the stuff that we talked about is available in tapping scripts already made for you on the app.
Ooh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Uh, so quick recap on the chakras. There's 7, and start with the root, then go to the navel, and then the sacral, then the solar plexus, then the heart, right? And then throat, third eye, and crown.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. You said navel and sacral. Those are both
Oh.
the same thing.
Oh, okay.
So
That's why I counted to 8.
root, sacral, solar plexus, heart, throat, third eye, and crown.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Sweet. What would you say is one of the harder ones that people usually have a hard time with tapping out?
I think it's the root.
The root.
And I think the root needs to be consistently worked on.
Mm,
Because that, along with all the other ones, they're always in flux. It's always kind of something like, I think it should be part of a daily practice to do whatever you need to ground yourself in your body, and do whatever you need with tapping to regulate your nervous system, which is also part of the root chakra. And you might continually have to do that through the day while you are working on the deeper core issues.
mm.
And like I mentioned in the beginning, the deeper core issues get less and less over time, but there's always more work to do around them.
Yeah.
So I think you're going to be returning to fear over and over and over again. And the guilt and the shame that go along with it are easier to dislodge once you can recognize that that's what you're experiencing.
Mm.
But it all needs to be addressed.
Gotcha. Yeah. There was a saying that was told to me at the beginning of my rehab, which I thought was the dumbest thing ever. And it was, you got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And I was like, no, why? Like, if you get, and it's kind of a paradox, but it's a lovely one, because if you are somewhat uncomfortable, it means you're in new territory, you're learning things, you're trying different things. But if you're in that comfortable phase or state, then you can become complacent and you don't move forward and you start like shrinking, I think.
Yeah.
So interesting.
If there's anything you fear in life, whether it's social anxiety or marketing yourself, like have problems with, then you know that there's something to work through. And the minute you step outside of your comfort zone, it's going to feel super scary. Even if you have worked through a bunch of the stuff, because you haven't taken that step yet, that step is still going to feel scary. But you have to remind yourself that it's not going to be scary forever. My comfort zone is going to get bigger the more I do this new skill, whatever it is. The more I market myself, like my fear level is going to go down consistently as long as my experience with it goes up. And so that is always the best lesson for me, that it doesn't have to continue to be scary. I just have to keep being willing to dip my toe outside of my comfort zone and keep trying, no matter how small that step is, no matter how insignificant it might feel at the moment, looking from the outside in. It's a big step for me, and I'm going to give myself kudos for that and tons of compassion. And then I'm just going to keep trying. I'm going to keep doing it. I might get really comfortable with it and decide I still don't like it, but at least I'm not afraid of it anymore.
No. Yeah. And I think that's a really powerful statement too, right there.
Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of people, myself included, kind of trip up a lot of the time, because it's not a tangible thing. It's not something that, like, going to the gym every day, you can actually start to see results after a few weeks or a few months. But if you just sit there and you work on your fears and stuff, it's like the only person that's going to really see that at first or feel that is you. And if you keep beating yourself up, then you're never going to make progress. But I don't know. It's so strange, because I think that we are our own worst enemies. And that saying is just, it just holds more water the more I've learned this whole healing kind of aspect, because it's like, and I have to find compassion and grace for myself, because it's like, I know that there's that question of like, well, where would I be if I had been softer or been my own best friend sooner? But I can't beat myself up for doing the things that I had to do to get where I'm at. I'm the person that has to touch the hot stove to learn that it's hot. You know?
Yeah, you're exactly where you're supposed to be at this minute. And so am I. Even with all of my still existing shadows, I'm still exactly where I'm supposed to be. And that's okay. I have to keep reminding myself of that too. Like, I'm 50 and 56 this year. And I still think about, God, if I had just known this when I was like 35, what a different place I would be in now. But I can't, that's illogical thinking. And it doesn't help me one bit. And so when I get to the place where I can remind myself that I'm right where I'm supposed to be, then it feels better. It feels like it couldn't have happened any other way. It feels like I have arrived in this place at just the right time.
Yeah. Ooh, I love that. And kind of like you said, we don't really arrive, but whenever we find ourselves comfortable back in our own body and what we're currently experiencing, I think that's whenever everything kind of starts to pay off. That's whenever the whole like eureka moment kind of happens, and then you break through a shell, and then you're on to the next comfort zone, whatever that may be.
Yep. There's always something right behind it too. Damn it.
Yeah.
I was telling my coach the other day, I'm like, can I just coast for a while? Like, I really would love to just coast. That would be lovely. Lovely.
Yeah. But,
No such thing right now.
yeah. I guess that just depends on where you want to end up going in the long run.
Right.
And I don't know about you, but I've spent way too long in my own shadows and letting them have the reins, and it's just not fun. Not fun.
No. That's a lot of suffering there.
Yeah. We are near the end of this. Well, getting near the end of this episode. So, real quick, do you think that some people can find a way out hang on, let me rephrase that. How many people, not how many, but whenever someone finds themselves in addiction, they find themselves in substance addiction or process addiction, they have shadows that they need to deal with. They need to tap it out. And you help people with this kind of stuff, right?
Absolutely. There's a video on the app that tells everybody the steps that they need to take in order to get there. And if you want to do individual work getting you to that place, then I'm available for that as well. But you can just do it on the app, and it really mirrors exactly what we've talked about here. It starts with working through the fears and then working through all of the areas that you might feel guilty in, and then your sense of self. Those are the big ones.
The sense of self. Yeah. I don't know about you, but sometimes I'm still figuring myself out, and it's kind of weird where I end up sometimes.
Yes, I agree.
Amy, do you have any last words for the audience this evening? Because it's been an absolute honor and a pleasure having you back on, and I look forward to having you back on in the future, because if we just went this deep into chakras, I would love to figure out something else with tapping or how we can utilize the chakras, because I don't know about you, but I got a lot of learning to do. I'll never stop learning.
No, I'm in the same place. No, of course, I would always love to come back. You're a great conversationalist. So anytime.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Sweet.
I don't know that I have anything else to add other than I just really encourage people to try tapping, try going down that road. It's going to be uncomfortable at first, just like we talked about stepping outside your comfort zone, because most people aren't used to honoring and acknowledging their emotions. That's something that we normally hide away from everybody, including ourselves. So it feels uncomfortable at first, but the better you get at it, the easier it is. And I start to crave it now because I know the relief that is on the other side. So, yeah.
Ooh, I love that.
Yeah, it's better than food cravings, which I'm.
I think for those people that are having a hard time getting out of their comfort zone whenever it comes to acknowledging their own emotions and stuff, I would say to kind of find a role model for someone that is unapologetic in who they are, because that is one of those things that, like, if I had a role model in that sense, it would have made me think a little bit different. But I was struck with that people pleaser stuff, and it just I didn't have room to be myself in that world. So no. So find a role model.
we all did what we needed to do to survive, and there's no shame or problem in that. And then now it's just time to let go of it.
Time to let go. Yeah. Let go and go with the flow.
That's right.
Well, Amy, it has been an absolute honor and a pleasure, like I said, and I can't wait to see you in the next one. And everyone else out there, thank you for listening to Guidance in Recovery on WDJY 99.1 FM. And as always, try to love yourself. Love others if you can, but you gotta try to love yourself first. Be your favorite version of yourself today if you can. And if you're having a mental health crisis, you can dial 988 or text 741-741. And if you're in the LGBTQ plus community, you can dial the Trevor Project up in Canada. And we'll see y'all in the next one. This has been Amy. This has been Keegan. And we'll see y'all in the future. Much love. Love.